Good morning and welcome everyone to our Saturday morning art clinic online. We have today Gail Shaw-Clemons, who is being hosted by one of our favorite artists that we've had recently, Aziza Gibson-Hunter. And I remember back in May when Aziza was our presenter, just being enamored with the flight series that she did with Starlings. And how, as a person who really enjoys movement and artwork, it just was really absolutely fascinating to see that kind of spring from the canvas onto the walls into almost a sculptural form. So it's great to have Aziza back, and she is going to be our introducer. I don't know, person who introduces our artist today. So I will pass the torch before I word salad this even more to Aziza.
Well, thank you so
Morning.
much, Jordan. And I want to thank the Art Clinic for giving me the opportunity to share some of my colleagues' work. And I'd like to introduce Gail Shaw-Clemons, right up there in that beautiful fuchsia top. And she holds a bachelor's and master's, MFA from University of Maryland. And we've known each other for over 40 years. And I met Gail as a visiting artist at Howard University, and she did a workshop in stone lithography. And we students were in absolute awe because most of us worked with etchings. And personally, I consider etching to be kind of like a dog. You tell it, do this, and it does it. But when you get to lithography, it was kind of like a cat because you can't see exactly, you can't see the reaction of the different acids on the stone. You have to imagine it. And Gail was just like a magician with that stone. And so and at that time, she was doing these Afrofuturism kind of images. And I tell the young people now, you all talk about Afrofuturism, but you haven't met Gail Shaw-Clemons because I think that she did some of the earliest work like that and did these wonderful otherworldly people and critters. And and we just enjoyed her so much. She went on to work with Martin Puryear and David Driskell and Thaddeus Lipinski, to name a few of the people that she studied under. And she is currently teaching at Bowie State and has retired from over 30 years of teaching art and printmaking. She's widely exhibited here in the US as well as internationally, and her work is in collections in Sweden, China, Ireland, France, and Brazil. So I think you're going to really enjoy my friend Gail. And Gail, let's go.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me, Aziza and Jordan and Mariana. I'm really excited about this. I'm so interested right now in just documentation. And this is exactly what I need and what I was looking for. So I really appreciate you all. So I basically, let's see, how do I get started? My slide presentation starts when I was in graduate school, before I actually graduated. Well, I guess it was my thesis exhibition. And so I was definitely majoring in accounting before when I went to the University of Maryland. And I suddenly realized I don't think like an accountant. So my cousin went away for the summer, and I stayed in her apartment in Baltimore and took a class. And I took Martin Puryear's wood cutting class. And I had one other class. I didn't know anyone in Baltimore. I just worked the whole time I was there. And I was like, I could do this. So my junior year, I went back and changed my major. And so my uncle, who was an accountant, said, well, I don't think you're going to make any money as an artist. And believe it or not, that's the fire that he gave me and that I've always kept, that I never wanted to hear him say, I told you so. So everyone needs a little bit of fire to, push them ahead. So this is one of my litho prints. I think it was like the full sheet of the paper, 22 by 30. It's entitled Warm Love of Stardust Children. And when I went to Africa before I started my master's degree, and just kind of hung out. And I was in Ethiopia, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, Nairobi, Kenya, and just kind of trying to absorb as much as I could about Africa because I'd never been, and evidently some part of me is from there. So. Um, when I came back, I was trying to figure out now what do I do with all this information, and I suddenly realized I was doing a lot of doodles on my parents' mail, on napkins, on all sorts of things, and I started compiling those things into a journal, and realized that my doodles are coming totally from my subconscious. I'm not looking at something, it's just coming out. And so I thought maybe I would just use those as my source of imagery. So I started to blow these things up, and they kind of became akin to each other. I mean, there was a style that I had developed that I didn't try to develop. It just kind of intuitively came out while I was talking on the phone, doing other things without thinking about drawing. Okay. So, and then years later, I suddenly realized this was my husband and I. So I find out a lot about my drawings through my subconscious, not always in time though. So this is another piece. This was, I forgot the name of this one. Oh, No Way in This World. So this was a doodle as well. And that little animal there, I'm not sure what that is, but I just started to just make them all big and drawing them on a stone. It would take me anywhere from a month or two to draw directly onto the stone. There were times when my mom would call my boyfriend at the time and say, "Could you go check on her?" Because at that point there was no there was no cell phones or anything like that. And so it was just me and the stone. Okay. Oh, and this rainbow effect, Thaddeus Lipinski was the inventor of the rainbow roll. And he always wanted me to incorporate rainbows into my work. And I was always resisting, as other students were. But so this was one that I did for him. I just, did a rainbow roll onto the stone and printed it. And this is entitled Universal Women. This was absolutely, I still remember it on the little piece of paper that it was drawn on. And then I just blew it up. And so I was dating a guy who was a Capricorn. So I'm the Capricorn woman. So I have the horns. And so this is my child that I didn't have at the time. And I said that when he grows up, his horns will grow the right way. So right now they're kind of going in different opposite directions. So this is kind of like my fantasy world. You can see signs of scarification marks and the braiding that I, saw in Africa. And so she's kind of protecting her world from ours, which needs a lot of protection. And so there's the Ankh symbols in her hands. And so this took me at least 2 months to draw. So it's really huge. Um, yeah, so, and I also did a version in color as well. And with color, I had to um, print the edition and then erase areas that I did not want to be affected by the first color. I used something called a snake stone, and it's an abrasive kind of pumice stick that erases the visual image, and then you have to use an acetic acid to erase the chemical image. And then you can continue to roll up your color and in registration printing onto your original prints. The colors had to be transparent though, because I already had the black image printed. And this is what the size of the stone that I was working on. And I did most of my work on one stone. After I completed the drawing, the addition, I would grind it down and prepare it for a new drawing. So I never had to like worry about anyone using my stone or anything like that. And I had to use an automatic hoist in order to just move it to the sink or move it anywhere. And I really, really couldn't use any help. The only time I ever got help was when my finger got caught in between the stone and metal. So I had to do everything all by myself because you really have to know where everything is when you're dealing with something that size. And I don't even know how large the weight of it, but it's pretty heavy. Okay, so now, oops. Okay, so after graduate school, I was left without a place to work on a stone. So I never really thought about that upon graduating. But I was a member of the Percy Martin workshop, and he had small stones. So I was able to do some smaller things there. And eventually, I moved his litho press to my house, to my basement. And I had, so the people who wanted to do litho would come to my studio. And it was really great. One summer we wrote a grant, and the Duke Ellington students, I had about 7 students that came to my studio. I taught them how to make editions, and we printed Michael Plack, Big Al Carter, a couple of other artists. They did their editions that summer. And so that was really amazing. And then they did an edition of their own. So that was the extent of my litho studio. And so since I didn't have a studio, I was doing a lot of drawing on paper. And actually, I started making drawings that were doodles. They didn't come from anything. They just kind of um, came out within themselves. The one on the left is called Deja Vu. And my thesis was on dreams and how we travel when we're dreaming. And we confuse deja vus with um, being in a certain place at a certain time at the same time. However, it does not exclude your dreaming. So here you have human, some non-human, some almost human. But the idea of this drawing is I don't know where these people came from, but I do know if we exist, anything is possible. Okay, so the next one over here is it's entitled "The Artist Pays the Price." And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier in terms of how secluded artists can be and how um, things can happen. I know I used to have a class where kids would research artists and then do a piece of artwork inspired by them. And a lot of the artists had such depressing endings that I had to like stop, doing the project because um, there's a lot of drama and, horror that happens to a lot of artists. And so this is kind of an homage to how psychologically, financially, physically, that you can get caged in if you're not careful. And I think that's where the community comes in, where being a part of something, um, even if you're not making a lot of money or whatever, the spark is creativity. Because when you leave this earth, you're going to leave work, not your money. Can't take that with you. So, Anyway, this is my the drawings I was working on postgraduate. Maybe I pushed the wrong one. This is another one. I'm actually working a full sheet of paper. I think it was like, I don't know if it's 22 by 30, but it was pretty big. And I was started experimenting on textured paper, because I really like the idea of shading, and the stone can give you such a variety of texture, where if you're working on a piece of paper, it's just one texture. So this one had a really, really coarse texture. I'm not even sure what it was. But so I was experimenting with graphite on that. Again, I was doing these series on mushroom people. And so she has mushroom hair. And the whole idea of the psilocybin and an out of state existence it was interesting to me. I did a couple of pieces based on mushrooms, and then just started playing around with textures, and even the scribble in the background. It's just like, I'm free. I don't, I have nothing planned. I have no exhibitions in front of me. This is my time to just, do what I can, whatever I felt like doing. And this is a little, I forgot what they call it, but it's a bronze sculpture that I'd given my husband now. It was like from Africa, and they have lots of. Well, this one is like a ladder, a person climbing a ladder, and it was kind of, we were all trying to climb a ladder after school, and trying to figure out which way to go. And this one, Sweet Dreams. So this one is like where when you're closing your eyes, you just go into another world, and this world is abstract. It's untouchable, it's it can have sound. It doesn't necessarily have to have sound, but it's like astro traveling. And even though you're still, so your mind is like something that is besides the sea and space, our mind is the next most difficult thing to understand and control. And this one, uh, I'm not sure. I just kind of like the way the background suggests people, and they're kind of floating in space, and this person has wings, and she's also trying to negotiate or navigate um, going in one direction. So I don't even remember the title of this. Um, okay, but it's on that same paper, so I was getting a lot of nice texture, and also the sound of the pencil in the paper, because of the texture, was really kind of an interesting aspect of it. So this was one of the pieces at the Anacostia Museum. It was an exhibition. I forgot the title of it, but I had two pieces in it. This was the title of this is The Signs of the City, and this was done in the 80s or something like that. And I kind of feel like it speaks to us today. And it's like we're melting, whatever's going on, it's like we're losing it, and we can't control it. We have no arms, and all we can do is just hope. But it was also my mother's oldest sister who really took care there were 12 of them, and the parents died in their 50s. So there were like three kids younger than 10 who they still had to raise. And the youngest one, which was the accountant, they sent him to college. So she was on her death's bed. And when I kept looking at her, I kept hoping that just if one eye could open, that would be the sign that she's still here. And so this drawing was, it's a little bit morbid, but it's an homage to her, and my hope that I could just see that one eye open. Okay. And so I was experimenting on that textured paper with color pencils also. This is purely color pencil with the exception of the floor. I think it was um, like a Canson paper, so it was collaged. And here are some pieces that I no longer own because one was grifted and one was stolen, if there's any difference between the two. This one was done when I was pregnant with my first son. We went and show at the Market 5 Gallery. And this was huge. It was like 36 by 40 something. It was color pencil with, I think, tempera paint. And Percy called me and he says, well, they really loved the show. They loved it so much, they took one of each artist they took one piece from each artist in the show. And I'm like, that sounds like an inside job. But I never saw the piece again. And I just happened to find a slide of it. So I gave it to Michael Platt and he took that slide image and blew it up to the exact same size of the drawing. And I actually worked into that because after you see your work for a while, I was like, oh, I could have done this. So I just worked right back into it with color pencil. And on this one, I sent to a gallery in California somewhere, and somehow we've lost touch. So that one's gone as well. But this is my Madonna, and I'm always interested in form, like the three-dimensional aspect of drawing and how light is hitting an object and creating just that kind of pop from the page. Here, I'm not sure what she was doing, but she's kind of like showing off, I guess. And like they say, all that in a bag of chips kind of thing. So this is a drawing on that coarse paper, and you can see the texture really well here. And so I just, still working from my imagination, I guess, but through people I've seen, and sometimes they're me. And this one, I started working with I went to Sweden and I was doing these sun prints. And little did I know that the sun is totally different in Sweden. So I was destroying a lot of plates because of either overexposure. I think it was overexposure because in the summer that the sun is really, really strong and it's during the day and then it stays up until midnight. So I had a hard time trying to figure out that. So I did make some prints from it, but then I started printing. I turned this into a lithograph and then printed on top of some color backgrounds. This is a drawing of I was in New York and we had a collaborative exhibition with some other women. And the topic was the prisons we find ourselves in. And my prison was housework, my hair, anything and the things that tied me up from actually doing what I like to do. Okay, so usually I always had a studio in my house, especially in New York, because my kids were young. And so the best time to work when everyone was snoring. So I spent a lot of time staying up late at night doing that. And then my son came in one day and said, you should add some color to that ribbon. It's like, that's not a bad idea. So I did. But they used to become a part of my piece. I was in a gallery here at Alex Gallery, and my son had stepped on a piece or did something to it. And I said, well, that's his part of the creation. And so when Alex Gallery had the piece, someone was trying to sell it, but they wanted me to fix that piece of it. And I was like, well, I can't do that. But they bought it anyway. So this was in the exhibition also, but this is a small version of it. This is a 4-color plates litho. And during that time, I was talking about the environment and how if we aren't careful, we could find ourselves waking up somewhere else with no air. And so this is my interpretation of maybe we had some enclosed something in the water because the air is no longer existing. And so this is like walking in front of where you live now. And so this is kind of, I forgot the name of this title, but anyway, it's in the catalog, Anacostia Museum catalog for this exhibition. Okay, so now I was going on my merry way, working from my imagination and everything. And then I stumbled on, this is not the one that I saw, this is the one that I own, but I stumbled on a Confederate dollar bill. And on the dollar bill, there were slaves. And they were on not all, but most of the Confederate money, either on the front or the back, slaves were on there. And I think that's where that slogan, right on the money, came from, because there we were right on the money. And so, and we were smiling and we were happy to do this because this was an advertisement. They put us on the money to advertise to Europe that, we got this free labor and they're loving it. So that kind of really just did something to me. And at that point, I just started figuring out we actually created the first millionaires in America. And so I began to start, I went to the Bureau of Engraving. I was living in New York at the time, but I came down here, went to the Bureau of Engraving to see what could I do with money without getting arrested. And so, so they began to tell me certain things. They said I could actually wallpaper my bathroom as long as I don't try to copy it and make it look like it's real. So with that information, I started playing with African sculptures with American money. And I thought, this is African American, where you have the African sculptures and the collage with the money. And it's interesting because like the one on the left looks like kaolin, which is that chalk or something that they would use on their face. And if you look at it closely, it's saying United States like 1,000 times. And then I started actually drawing with the money and figuring out which side, because one green is a different color from the other side. And I started to find words that I could actually read. And so here it says, "In God we trust." These little strips actually had the word "In God we trust." And so just playing around with money and figuring out how to use it and how to draw with it. Okay, so the next one, I can't see the one over here. Can you see the one on the right? You can. Okay, good. Because that's my favorite. All right. So then I also started using objects that people used in Africa as utilitarian objects. This is a gourd, and and they started doing that same thing once they came to America. And so I was trying to use utilitarian objects that were used in Africa, and I was collaging money on them. So this is actually a whole lot of money on a rope that I then glued around the top of the gourd. And there was a pattern, an Adinkra symbol already in the gourd. So I took small pieces and collaged into those shapes as well. And you can just hang it on the wall without a frame. So I did a drawing of, this is the first bill I saw, the $2 bill from Georgia. And here you can see in the background, there's an overseer and people working. And then in the foreground, there's people, picking cotton with bales on their shoulder, carrying bales of cotton. So I decided to superimpose the drawing of cotton onto the money, because not only was uh, money made from cotton, money was actually made out of cotton. So that's kind of a interesting. So this is another African object. It was a mirror, and then I found a way to actually create the ram symbol on it with money. So basically, the money is in the negative space, and then the mirror is cleared so that you can still see through it. Okay, this is we hear a lot about how men and women were treated in slavery, but very little about children. And so this is an ode to, it's called This Mother's Daughter. And Nancy Wilson had a song about that as well. But parents had to prepare their children for physical and sexual abuse before something happened to them. And so this is my kind of homage to the child who had to become an adult through no fault of their own. And so I've created these symbols, these protective, I think were symbols on the body. There's the crocodile I use a lot. It's the protective spirit that is also a sign of resilience. And then I made the same way I made the money around the gourd is the same way I made her skirt. Okay. So then I started saying, well, we need our own money. You know, I don't, we need to be represented in our own money with the truth on the money. So I started making these. I'm using African bark paper. I started coming up with my own titles of banks, my own slogans. The money was made with leather. I used cowrie shells, and this is a collage of my drawings. And I'll just go through those quickly. Here are some other ones, and they're about 22 by 30. Okay, so these are my, so I just wanted to like say, okay, this is the truth. We didn't really enjoy that. Okay, so, and what a price to pay for freedom. I tried to put those slogans on. Um, so anyway, that's what I was doing in terms of, and then this one, where I went to an exhibition in New York where the curator decided that he did not want shackles in the exhibition. And I'm like, well, how do you have a exhibition on slavery? So, Slavery in New York was the title of the show, of the exhibition. How do you do that without, how do you have slavery without the shackles? So I put the shackles on the money, and the beautiful houses that we can make in Africa, in South Africa, in the Ndebele tribe, creates these beautiful houses. And then this is a sculpture that I have here. So this is one of the sculptures that I did a lot of drawings from that I own. And I've used it in a lot of different ways. I was doing abstract monotype printing, and then trying to find a way to merge my drawings with my prints. And so these are some of the ways that I did that. This is an interesting one here because of the transparency of it all, which we'll see in future work. So when it was just before COVID, I was going to the African Museum to draw from the sculptures that were there. And I think I finished about 12 before they shut the whole museum down. But I was actually doing some actual observational drawings. This is the studio in New York, a Bob Blackburn studio. So I connected with one of the printers in New York, and she helped me to actually make my own superimposed prints of my drawings. And so what she did was she would print she had a separate plate for each drawing, and then she would print one image on a chincolet, like a rice paper, and then she would put that onto the good paper and then print on top of that. And so I wanted to get this ghostly effect, like the mask represents the ancestral spirits. So I wanted these to look like the ancestral spirit is within the mask. Originally, I came up with another technique, and it was long and laborious. And then when I showed it to my son, he said, "Mom, you could have used Photoshop." Anyway, but because of those experiments, I was able to do a full-size figure, and the drawing, I copied it from a huge Xerox machine, because this is about 5 feet. And I put maybe 30 layers of gel matte medium on top of it. Then I would soak it in water and scrape away the paper, leaving the membrane of the membrane with the image embedded into it. So I'd have the kind of like a plastic membrane, and then I can superimpose other things behind it. And when I was in a book traveling book project, and I developed this skill within that project. So, and then I was always trying to make a connection between African Americans and the mask. And then I found this poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar that said, "We wear the mask." And what it meant was during that time, we outside we had to show that we were happy and content, but inside we were feeling, the residuals of Jim Crow, of racism and segregation and all of those. But we've been wearing the mask for a long time. So then I saw Al Loving, but I knew Al Loving. I met him in New York, but I took this picture at the Baltimore Museum, and I just liked the idea of the construction, the collaging and the three-dimensionality that's suggested with this particular piece. And at Bob Blackburn's, I was doing these really, really large monotype prints, and I'll tell you why. And then some of them I turned into warrior robes. I saw this picture of a warrior robe, and it reminded me of a kimono. And at the United Nations International School, we tried to expose kids to art from all cultures because that's where they were from. And I always like to bring out the similarities of the cultures. And so, and realizing that we have more similarities than differences. So this was a three-dimensional warrior robe. So I pretend like I was sewing, but then instead I would glue the sides together. And I've always been interested in sculpture. However, I felt like um, I could never afford it. I mean, with all the materials were just too out of my price range. And this is another one. I did a whole series of these. I had a hard time exhibiting them because of the three-dimensionality of them. And so some of them I decided to leave flat. And so this is what it looks like before I actually put a hole in it and fold it and make it so that it stands. And actually, I've been able to sell a lot more of these because you can actually put them in the frame. But the irony is that I made these to make the three-dimensional aspect, and then had to convert back to the flat version, where most people would have done just the opposite. So one of my major influence in terms of color is Archibald Motley. And I suddenly realized I was in an exhibition with him a long, long time ago. A curator by the name of Thurlow Tibbs created the book called Surrealism and the African American Artists. And he was in there, Archibald Motley. And also Thurlow had a really good collection of his work in his house. So it was just so amazing to see it. His colors were screaming. And I saw his exhibition at the Corcoran, And it was like he painted them yesterday and that they were still wet. And I think he was deceased by then. And these paintings just haunt me because of the vibrancy of the color and just being in the room where they were just glowing and shining. So that's my inspiration for color. So I started, um, I think that one might be out of order, but let's see. Uh, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to go back. So after COVID, Stable was closed. I had no place to work. So Pyramid opened early. So I started going there and just printing the front and the back of the paper. I printed on the front of the paper. I did these gradients. I had no reason or rhyme why. I just kind of needed some color in my life. And I started doing these rainbow prints. And then once I ran out of paper, because a lot of the stores are closed as well, I started printing on the backs of the paper. And after that, I had about 50 sheets of paper and I wasn't sure what to do with them. So I started playing around with them since there was color on both sides and curling them and just matching them up with different backgrounds and realizing that, hey, this is something I could probably play around with because it's sculptural, it's colorful, and I can afford it. So I devised ways where I could curl it and not have to sit around and hold it in place. So between the glue, hot glue, and the archival glue, I would get it in position and then take tabs of paper and tape and just tape it down and then go to bed and then wake up the next morning and it's done. Okay, so these are some of the first ones that I did, and it's amazing. It's like when you curl it over, it was just always such a pleasant surprise because you never know what's going to be there. And the colors were almost glowing. And so I just had a great time just playing. I would play around with positioning and taking pictures with one hand, and then I'd go home and look at them and see what I liked, and then go back the next day and start manipulating them. And then I started to actually get further into collaging with those papers. I had a lot of scraps, and as hard work as it is to get those prints done, nothing goes in the trash. So I was able to use those pieces, and I realized that if I cut them and open them, because there's color on the back anyway, I'm still going to get a nice, pleasant surprise. So I started putting different circles on top of circles, opening them up, putting them on another background, and just really having fun with collaging. And it's funny because I'd have maybe 7 or 8 going on at the same time, and I'd go get something, go eat, go out, come back and put a piece here, a piece there. And this one was the hardest one. And one day, I think it took me 20 minutes to do it. So it's just like it's just depends on your temperament, where you are at that time. And so I was quite happy with it. It even has like an optical illusion to it. And these are 11 by 15. So then got really bold and said, I'm going to play around with these scraps and try to make them even bigger and more interesting and three-dimensional. And this one I worked on for maybe like 3 months. I just kept throwing stuff over there and then coming back to it and back and forth. And then toward the end, toward my exhibition, it all came together. And this is entitled Coney Island. Reminds me of my grandkids. We always take them to Coney Island, just sit out and have fun and have lunch. Okay, so since I had these, I started working bigger once everything opened up. And then, so this is actually 3 pieces of paper that have been printed on both sides. I don't waste time though. The one on the back wasn't printed on the on the back because I knew it wasn't going to be shown, but the other ones were. And then I started curling and then working on a larger scale. And then I have this I've got these circles that I can use with my printing press to cut perfect circles. And I started playing around with with cutting the circles just where the gradient um, does its thing. And then I was able to make these look three-dimensional. So some of these are protruding and some of them aren't. And it's kind of a play with your eyes on which is which. When you get close up to it, you can see it better. But really purposely trying to create an optical illusion. And this is another one. It's called The Promise. Because I incorporated the rainbow in it, the rainbows has such biblical meanings. And so this is the title of it. And so there are optical illusions as well. Some areas, like the areas at the bottom, look like they're totally protruding, but they aren't. But there are other ones, some of the color ones are about an inch above the paper and going beyond the paper. All right, so this is a collection of prints that I did in homage to my mom, who was a secretary at the IRS. She was a grade 5 when I was in the 5th grade. And when she retired, she was still a grade 5. So she trained so many people to move on to have illustrious careers, yet she didn't have that opportunity. But we never knew that we were poor. Um, we did everything. We went skiing. She loved winter sports. She loved any kind of sports. I don't think I got that from her, but she was really, she never told us we couldn't do something, that would dampen our spirits or our enthusiasm. And so she knew, she used to do, what is this called? Oh, why am I drawing a blank here? Um, Shorthand. So she knew shorthand. So she would literally take the dictations, type them up and everything. So whoever was doing that didn't even have to know how to write, you know? So this is my interpretation of shorthand. It's very, it moves, it's like something I could never understand. I tell people not my next life, but the life after that one, would I be able to like learn a language or something like that? And I'm in such awe of people who can speak more than one language. And to have this written language, which is probably almost obsolete now, um, I just had fun with it and started playing around. There's probably no letter that matches any of this, but it's where I am right now, and I couldn't have more fun. So these are 8 by 8 framed pieces that I put together to create like an installation. And so far, there are going to be two. There's one already in a public space, and there's going to be another one once they frame it. And so this is a smaller version of that. There are a lot of them that I can put together and create in different variations. And here they are. And I think oh, one more.
Gail,
Yeah.
how big are these, the last few slides?
Okay, so the last few, okay, so these boxes are 8 by 8. So together they're, 3, 6, they're a little bit larger. So, but um, this one is 4 feet by 6 feet. Okay. And I have one that I think is 5 by 6. But they're all individuals. And so I just give them a picture of how to put it together again. Okay. So that's my story. Thank you.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Gail, how do you kind of when you're creating these kind of pieces that we're looking at now, how are you deciding the color schematic? Are you just kind of trial and error it? Do you have like a wake up one morning and say, I want to work with purple? Or how do you kind of decide on your range?
That's a good question because I'm teaching color theory to my students right now. And it's just like basically it's from feeling. You can teach all the color theory you want, but it's more about contrast. And so I have a lot of stuff out there. I'll pick something and play around with it. If I don't like it, I throw it to the side and pick something else up. So it's really just experimenting with it and seeing what works and what doesn't. But I find that the more contrast, the better.
And you have kind of I don't know how to say this. I remember like reading something about like there was just different proportions of different colors. How some days you like one more than another, or a certain quantity of one color. Do you ever kind of get tired? You walk in a studio one day, and be like, "Oh, I used to love that collage or whatever, but now those colors just don't sit with me quite
Yeah.
right."
Yeah, I think that there's so much color here, you're probably like overwhelmed. So it would be kind of hard you could just move on to the next piece. The interesting thing is the one at the top is kind of the symbol of breast cancer. And when I was doing this, I said, oh, I don't know if I really want to put a symbol per se that's recognizable, but I did. But it's not pink, it's orange. And so I actually had a health issue where I lost a kidney, and it could be attributed from studio stuff, I'm not sure. But the color for that cancer is orange. And this is just out of the blue that the same color for that would be this color. So sometimes I believe that, the spirits, the gods are always with you and that you do nothing alone. And I mean, I'm thankful to have hands and all of this stuff, but I'm not making the move. I didn't bring myself here. So I think there is a higher power that these things happen.
Yeah, I want to just make a comment of something I noticed when you were showing the older work, particularly the drawings. There was one drawing, I can't remember the title of it, but it was a head coming out of what looked like a wavy shell forms.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at that work, so sculptural to me,
Mm.
I can see a direct connection between that and what you're doing with the rolling the paper. And I think if there was a way to like look at those two together, perhaps in some of those drawings, they were just so very sculptural in the way that you made them, that I can completely see how this could be a next step, even though it's not as figurative, it's more abstract, but I totally see a connection, particularly with all those little shapes and forms that you had. And that one piece just, I can't remember the name of it, but it was very, very sculptural looking. It looked like a paper sculpture in some ways to me, which is reminiscent of what you're doing right now.
But also the gradient is gives you that feel of the three-dimensional quality. And I don't have to do a lot of work to get it done. I just put two colors together, shift them a little bit, blend them, and print them. Where I can't tell you the time I've spent on gradients working with drawings.
I had a question about your color choices and wondering how might your color choices have been influenced by your travels, particularly in Africa?
Well, that's funny because when I went to Africa, I had some shorts and stuff, and they were like, "Oh no, you cannot go out here with a pair of shorts on." So they gave me one of the congas and the wraps, and so I had to wrap. And the people I was with, the guys had shorts, and I couldn't wear them, so I had to wrap always with the congas, and then I bought some back, and it was just fascinating colors and patterns. So very much in my subliminal, subconscious, because all of those things I was absorbing there. I had no mission or anything, just absorbing. What I realized is I should have paid more attention to my Swahili in college because I could only talk to the babies, but I learned a lot from them. And So, everything in terms of just the trees. I went to a place called Arusha, and they said that could have been where the Garden of Eden was. And they were like avocados and I mean, was it? No, it's mangoes just on the ground, just lush. And I was hoarding them literally. I had about 10 mangoes under my bed. And so yeah, that was an influence, but also with my graduate work too. Mhm.
I always thought recently I've been thinking about stenography a lot. For some reason, I'm a physician by training. I'm a doc, and I always thought, why didn't they teach us stenography? For medical note taking. And I
Wow.
think, and now it's interesting because you just brought up, this is so beautiful for a stenography
Mhm.
meaning,
Mm.
because it really is shorthand,
Mhm.
shorthand for life. And I think it would be so good if we were to learn it again, especially since children are not being taught handwriting.
Exactly. Never seen what it looks like, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I look at it, we need to look it up, but I was thinking I would want to learn it.
Yeah, that's
And I
interesting.
I thank you for doing this. This is
Yeah, it's
so,
like,
and what a tribute to your mom.
oh, thank you.
I just love it.
Yeah.
I was looking at the lighting, and the shadows have their own,
Right.
contribution to the overall picture. Do you play with the lighting when you display
No,
it?
but my photographer does.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I started focusing for all the beautiful colors and forms, I started focusing on the shadows, and that was just an added dimension. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's amazing what the shadows can do, but
Yeah.
it's amazing what the light can do as well. But the whole idea of the shadow just makes it pop even more.
And kind of adds to the three-dimensionality.
It really does.
When I look at this, I mean, it's like a language. You're developing this
Yeah.
language, this visual
Yeah.
language with color and form, shape. It's quite interesting.
I also think about it in terms of music.
Mhm.
When you
Yes.
see shorthand, it's like characters dancing on the paper. And that's kind of the effect I wanted. It's just like just constant motion.
Mhm.
Mm. Yes, definitely. Oh, they're just so beautiful.
Thank you.
They are, all of it. And it's so nice seeing the evolution of
Yes.
your work,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
From, those early lithographs
Yes.
to the work with the money to, you know, the color work and the three-dimensionality coming in.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Are you still doing lithography?
I'm not doing lithography. I'm seriously contemplating it again because I have better access to it now,
Mhm.
but never on that scale.
Can I ask you a dumb question? What happens to the stone, after you use it?
So after you use it, you grind it. You put another stone, a smaller stone on top of it with a carborundum, and then you with water, and you grind that image away.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And then it's ready for another
Well, you have
iteration
to
of whatever.
cancel out the chemical message as well. So you use
Yes, I
acetic
see.
acid to do that.
I see.
And then it's
Thank
ready
you.
to draw on again.
That's wonderful. And what kind of stone is it mostly used?
But at that time, we had just received maybe 20 Bavarian stones from Germany. They were brand
Bavarian.
new.
Does it have to be a specific
It's a
combination?
limestone.
Yes,
Yeah.
but stronger than and why does it have to come from Germany? Do you know? Do we
Well, no,
have
those
access?
those came from Germany, but
Right.
I don't think it matters where it came from.
Mhm.
Uh, I think it's just limestone. I'm not sure because you can, with the different grinding techniques, you can change the texture of the stone.
Got it.
that make
maybe
it
it's
more,
pressed
yeah,
or
or
something
smooth.
somewhere, and that's why they're
But there are a lot
importing
of
it.
different types of doing lithography now. If I did lithography, I usually do like a pronto plate. So it's a reasonable facsimile of lithography where
Ah,
you can print
Ponto.
on like it's like a frosted acetate,
Uh-huh.
or you can,
Oh,
yeah,
fabulous.
or you can
Wow.
photographically add it to a plate and print it that way. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do lithographs without the stone these days.
Wow. Thank you. That's fascinating. I
Yeah,
love.
I think it's interesting too that I don't think people think a lot when they think about artists working the physical nature of it, the
Mm.
extreme physicality of it. And I know with lithography, the stone lithography, it's a beast. It's
Yes.
it's a beast. You're grinding this stone and drawing on this stone. And even like with your processes, your printmaking processes, like with, you're doing the rainbow roll and you have this huge brayer that
Right.
you're inking up with. And then I think about what you're doing with the cut papers. Um, and, you're printing on both sides and you're cutting and you're composing. Do you find that you are drawn to the super physical aspects of printmaking? Is that a draw for you?
I am, it is a draw. I mean, when I was in doing lithos, stone lithos, I was pretty buff. My arms, I look like an athlete, okay? Not anymore. But I think the physicality of it did did draw me in, especially um I know, but like now when I'm printing, I'm using the press, I'm hearing this click in my shoulder. So, I have to find easier ways to work at this point because as an artist, like everyone, you have to kind of scale down on one thing you used to do and do something else. And so I'm feeling that I need a lot less stress on my body. So right now, like if I'm doing an edition, I try to get someone to do an edition for me. Like when I went to Tamarind, I had two pieces done there, and I didn't go near the printing presses at all. But I understood the process and was helpful in getting what I want. But as far as the serious physicality of it, I'm not that interested in it too much anymore. Even these big pieces of color, I've been working on a full-size piece of paper, and it is a lot. I mean, by the time I finish all of that, I have to come home and take a nap. But until I can no longer do it, I think I'll continue. Mhm.
I have a quick question, kind of about sound, because you mentioned a couple times recently with these ones about the kind of lyricality of how you're working, and actually earlier when you were talking about the lithography process and the sound of the texture of the paper. Do you feel like sound is a kind of a hidden underlining quality to what you do?
Sound? Well, definitely as I listen to music, but also when you start to roll the ink, you hear this clack, clack, this really loud kind of clacking noise, and then so there's a lot of that's involved, the whole physical aspect of getting it just right, getting that gradient just where you want it. Um, maybe subtracting too much ink or adding more, printing it more than once. There's a lot of sound involved with that. It's sounds and smells. But as far as um, a lot of my work has been influenced by music. And in fact, in my thesis, I wrote a lot about Stevie Wonder because he had a vision without being able to see. And I mean, in some of his songs, he's singing about orange snow and just stuff that could never be, but it could be that way in his mind. So his words are like so prophetic, that the whole United States needs to listen to it every day. They just need to be, and so, and it's just so, his music as well. I'm so amazed at what he does and his understanding of the world without being able to see it. Yeah.
I have a question. You talk about this whole idea of documentation, and and so what are you thinking about with that? What you mentioned that was very important to you, and how are you thinking about the lives of your work?
Well, it's kind of frantic right now. I am on the board of Soaring Gardens. It's an artist retreat, and the artist Aura Lehrman, has been deceased for like the past 25 years. So it's amazing to see how they're trying to keep her work alive. And I'm learning so much from that experience and learning what needs to be done and what I still have to do. But the whole idea of, if you don't write down what your work is about, someone else will. And it may or may not be what you were thinking about at the time. So that's the most important thing, is speak for yourself. And, I went to an exhibition in New York, and the lady was deceased. Her mom was there. Her sisters was there. Nobody could speak to what she was doing. And therefore, it's gone. So that's number one. And then organization, and and connecting with the people, that you try to get to know people who can help you in your absence. Aziza, I was telling you about Valerie Maynard and how she had a foundation. She started that foundation in 2020. Yeah, she started it. So I mean, I don't know how to go about doing stuff like that, but yeah, even to that extent, to try to set up things the way you want them, so that people aren't scrambling trying to do it later on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I'm preaching, but I'm not even doing all of that myself, but I know what I need to do.
Yes, and for all the artists that are listening, I want to put a little to say that over at MLK Library, there is a People's Archive, and artists can open files there. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to be able to place your CV, your notices, your reviews, your articles, your thoughts into an institution that, that has the job of preserving that. And it can be used by scholars and galleries and art historians. And we had a historian that went there, and he was just bowled over. He was just like, oh my goodness, the artists that have things in here. This is such a treasure trove for someone like me. So please, artists, get your file open. This is a very easy process. And if we do it correctly, I think that Washington, D.C. could be a place that art historians and writers will come to, because the information is readily there. And they don't have to go hunting all over the place. It's there. There's a place where they can come, and it is there. So, it would behoove us all to open our files.
I love that. Thank you guys so much. Claudia, or Aziza, thank you for inviting Gail today. Gail, thank you for this incredible presentation. I absolutely
Welcome.
loved hearing your journey. It was quite wonderful.
Thank you.
Amazing. And now you'll be part of our archives too. So you spoke about your art, and we'll have you on YouTube.
Yes, thank you. One down and 100 to go.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you
was-
so much.
Oh,
Thank you,
Thank
Gail.
you.
We'll be back in 2 weeks on, oh shoot, I have to write this down, November 8th with Chris Combs. Michael Janis, who is one of the founders of the Washington Glass School, is our host for that one. And until then, I hope everyone has a fabulous Saturday. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
people
Thank
are
you.
writing accolades, Gail, congratulating you on your work and
Great.
how beautiful it is.
Well, anyway, I guess that's it. Thanks,
Great
everyone.
presentation. Thank you so much. Have a great
Thank
weekend.
you.